So this is actually exactly the same group that we used for that basically did the fountain drop. Most of the guys that were in on the fountain drop versus goons were also in on this one versus XIX. And basically, we've been watching Zekiel for a while now, looking at how XIX responds to certain groups and the typical kind of flagrants that they use to drop on kind of fleets tackling their supers or rockals or whatever.
So
and we noticed
over 100 dreads are prepared for this, by the way, it says in the video.
Yeah, so so we basically were watching this for a while. So I got together with a couple of the guys, some Volta people, basically saying that, look, if you can tackle a super and get them to respond, we can drop the hammer. So we can do exactly the same thing that we did with Goon Swarm. Get all these dreads ready, move them, get them ready, get them fit, get the guys together, the OPSEC guys have the same kind of level of OPSEC, and then basically punish them for improperly, or let's say like not improperly, but like using their Titans and supers without too much thought, And so we actually had this one was a much bigger op than the previous one. We had, as you said, 120 dreads set up. Lots of different groups were involved in this one. We had Purple Helmeted Warriors, Gangbang Team, I think, were in there. Free range chickens, like obviously my corp, Vanguard, some other groups within Horde as well, like Waffles were there as well. Some NC corps, a couple of PL dudes were there. And I think I've got everyone. Maybe there might have been a few extra people there as well. Yeah, but it was a big operation with lots of different
Gaming
people there.
Says 123 dreads, and one guy that didn't have fuel.
Oh yeah, that was me actually. So no, sorry, that wasn't me actually. I jumped in 3 dreads and I forgot to put Stront in one of them, so I just walked that one off when it landed grid. But yeah, that happens. But yeah, actually, if you listen to the comms, actually, the moment we actually had to mid once, because where XIX live and where they stage their supers from is quite far away. So we actually have to mid the supers in range. So fortunately, we didn't get scouted either at the mids or at our staging point. So we managed to move 120 dreads completely quietly. And this was actually the second attempt to do this. We actually did 2 attempts at this, one on Saturday and one on Sunday.
1 second. So this is your second attempt. We'll pick it up there in a second. I just want to go back to something you said. The dread landed without Stront, therefore you just warped it off. And what he's actually saying is that in order to siege in these dreads, you need to have Stront. That's the fuel for sieging. Without that, you can't siege. If you're not sieging, you're really not doing the kind of DPS that's merited, so it might as well save the dread and warp off.
Yeah. Ironically, like this video is being taken by a guy that also forgot to siege, I think. But he actually had Stront, but he was doing so many different things. He was like, he
got the video.
A bunch of different. He was doing he was looking basically for cinematic shots. He had sabers and Hictors in system as well that were doing very specific things. So this guy that was taking the video had a lot of things to do. So those people in this drop are running at least 2 dreads. Some of them are running 4 or 5 actually. I think the one guy I'm going to do a shout out is a guy called Gumsy. I think he was running at least 4, plus another few things like a signer and a recon, or I can't remember which. So it is hard to multi-box, but it's also a skill that you can learn. And the people in this particular drop aren't the kind of people that are new, as I said, they're not new to this stuff, so they're all pretty on the ball with.
But you as an FC, this is multiple groups. It's not just your guys, your corporation that you work with very well all the time.
Yeah.
Was that difficult?
It's actually everyone's basically, we're all on the same comms together. So I'm basically coordinating with the guys that managed to get the initial tackle on the super that was ratting. And that's basically intermittent kind of communication just to make sure that things are going on. As they give me live updates of if they're committing supers and titans to save them. But then I'm also communicating with my own fleet and the guys doing special roles in my own fleet to do this stuff. So for example, for this fleet, we actually had about 20 dudes with probably about 40 accounts, 40 individual toons doing specific roles like logging off Hictors and sabers close by, within covering a set of systems in XIX space, so that if we tackled a super somewhere else, we could quickly respond to that as well. And so this
tearing
yes,
through these Titans.
oh yeah, dude, it was a crazy amount of DPS we had. I mean, it's unfortunate actually because a lot of the Titans they bumped themselves when they signed in on top of the tackled super. So unfortunately, a lot of these Titans that get the ones that we're shooting now, for example, this particular one I think we actually kill later on. No, this one, what's his name? Den. I'm not sure if he escapes or not. But there's another one actually that got bumped. So Den gets bumped, another one gets bumped, a couple of supers get bumped as well. So that's quite unfortunate. But one of them actually, warps off to safety. One of these Titans. I think it was a Titan pilot called Zerko, and he warps to Nathanor. And at this point, actually, it's literally just us on
Zyklon or
grid.
Zerko or something
Yeah,
like
something
that.
like that. Yeah, it was actually just a Dreads on grid. So I'm not sure if. Yeah, I think. Are they still here? I think Volta's still here.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I think they're still on grid.
Just to give listeners an idea, one Titan dies in 61 seconds. The next Titan dies in 51 seconds. Apostle dies 51 seconds. Next Titan dies in 70 seconds. So it's like things are moving fast here.
And that's in real time as well, right? Whereas this is heavy tie-dye. I'm not sure if Eve pumps those out in tie-dye as well. So I'm not sure if that pumps out
I see. You're in tie-dye.
real time.
See that.
Yeah, we're about 50%, 40% tie-dye, but it gets quite bad at some point. It goes down to like 20% at some point as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have time to think.
Yeah, so at this point, I think it was I think Volta is still on grid, and they were shooting the Munins or something. But actually, yeah, so it was just us. Yeah, it was just us and Volta on the grid at some point, and yeah, we got information that Tappy were going to form. Sorry, my bad, dude.
Yeah.
Freudian slip. That test we're gonna form. And then we weren't sure, where other people were coming from. Like Red Alliance could also form and come in. So I think at this point we were starting to think, after this super, we should start looking at extracting and trying to get these dreads out, which is quite nice actually, because we managed to get something like, I think we got something like 80 of the dreads actually out of this fight.
Which sounds pretty close to correct.
Quite a nice number. But in hindsight, looking at this grid now, like if I was in a better frame of mind, I should have just warped all of these dreads. The thing is, like at this point, we had a Horde fleet coming with Alpha Star Pilot leading it. I think NC were also being a fleet as well. So we had fleets en route, but no one was really on grid, kind of basically defanging, super or carrier fighters and stuff. And again, we weren't exactly sure what was going to come.
So what do you think you guys should have done again?
I think we should have just warped all of these dreads once they're out of siege onto the fax blob that was basically, you can see it in the top corner, and then just committed them all. Because no, I don't think that would have gone badly, because basically we had Hictor's. We had Hictor's logged off in JTAC Z.
Oh, secret's out.
Yeah, ready to.
But the reality, like what you see here, like I did a 3-hour VOD review of like all the videos with my AFC team like 2 nights ago, and like we kind of evaluated the situation, and that was my concern as well, was that you guys like had been streaming in dread reinforcements from the drones and were in a position to like harder drop their core force there. But at that point in the fight, that was not the right call, because they had like 20 or 30 facts, and they if you watch right at the end before you guys warp away, they jump in the last of their Titans, or the reserves or whatever you want to call it, which is another like.
Yeah, the thing is, we could have gotten rid of those facts in like a minute. Like
30 facts don't go down that quick. Like
I could have literally broadcasted 3 at a time, and they would have instantly died. They would have gone down very quickly. At this point we still had about 90 dreads on grid. So those faxes would have melted if I landed. If I got.
What would have happened? What would have happened had you eliminated those faxes? You would have had access to kill more ships?
I think so, yeah. If we got through those faxes quickly enough, I don't think XIX would have had in being able to rage ping quickly enough to get extra faxes on grid.
I disagree. From rewatching the video multiple times, you made the correct call jumping out, but there was definitely an opportunity to jump back in with reinforcement. I think if you warp up there, especially just because of the way the ranges are, it probably ends up going poorly for you, just because if you watch at the end, XX brings in all the reinforcements, and all of a sudden it's not nearly as DPS in your favor as I think you think it is right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there were like what 7 or 8 Titans on grid still.
Well, no, that's at this point. But at
No,
the
no,
end, they jump in
at
like
the
20
end, yeah.
more,
Yeah, it could be.
which means
Well,
you're down like 20, 30 dreads as soon as you're moving in there. The supers are eating you that much quicker. Their dreads are jumping in. You're trying to shoot their facts. By the time you shoot through all their facts, you're probably down to 20, 30 dreads, right? And that's not really where you want to be. Like I think you guys made the correct play at this point, but I think there was definitely opportunity for you guys to jump back.
Well, the problem with jumping back in is that we didn't really have enough. So all of our sabers and tackle had been removed from grid at this point.
Yeah, but as you said, you guys had Hictors. You also had subcap control, right? Like
No, not at this point. No. Subcap control basically came when we jumped out. So we didn't actually have subs, and we actually jumped out before the subs entered grid.
you had
And when
subcap control the entire fight, man.
no, we didn't.
you only
No,
watched
we
the
didn't.
video, Vily. He was there.
No, but like
We had Volta there in a Loki fleet, and that was it.
right.
For
But
most
their
of the
Loki
fight.
fleet killed the XIX Munin fleet.
Yeah, well,
Do you
Yeah, well,
Vily,
not really though.
Vily, do you watch
yeah, they really did.
do you watch videos of other fights and break them down?
Yeah, every fight.
That's
I mean,
fascinating.
if you look at the battle report, dude, I don't really see the Munins being completely like they're
Well,
still
there's the
pretty.
Munin fleet that was on the field at the start, and then there's the Munin field that was at the very end when you guys had left grid and is reinforced 10 times over, right? Like what you see on a battle report doesn't reflect what was on the field. Like there was a point in like near the end of the dread bomb where you guys got to jump all out, and at that point you were like XX basically had no Munin fleet. They had warped away. They couldn't even clear tackle on their own Supers and Titans. Like at
I
that
mean,
point, you guys
there
did have
wasn't
subcap.
really any tackle left on their own Super and Titans because we also lost all of ours. So.
There was
No. There wasn't. I was calling for tackle to commit onto their Super and Titans because I knew that we had a subcat fleet for jump. So I was hoping that we had enough hoping that we had enough Hictors and Sabers left, but we just didn't. We just could not basically keep these guys tackled for long enough such that our subs that were a few jumps out could basically keep them tackled long enough such that when we jumped out, we jump back in, and then we go the whole process again. Like that wasn't a scenario that we could really do.
Now,
We tried for it, but it just wasn't gonna
I'm sure going back and looking at this,
happen.
it's interesting to tear it apart. But
Yeah.
I'm wondering, in your frame of mind, while you're there, what kind are these decisions just second nature to you, or are you constantly reevaluating what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, you're always having to kind of adapt on the fly, right? Like you're always kind of. I mean, I was getting intel that people were forming and stuff. Like Test was forming as well. So
Just
like, you're always kind of having to take.
Test as an ally to the people getting killed in this video.
Was having to take new information getting in. I mean, I was getting, people were saying, maybe we should, just warp these dreads over. I made the call to jump them out at this point because I was like, well, we've killed 4 Titans at this point, and I think it was 3 or 4 supers. So let's just extract what we have, and then maybe if we get subs on grid, or if they get on grid fast enough, we can keep what's left tackled. And then we'll have like complete grid control, and then we might be able to use the dreads again to do a second drop in 30 minutes when our time is called down. Bearing in mind that everything here would still, the logic there was that basically everything here would still be heavy tie-dye, but where we were jumping to wouldn't be.
Oh, interesting.
Well.
What a tactic.
Yeah,
that's a pretty important factor.
So we just saw them extract those dreadnoughts from the battlefield.
Did you extract them into tie-dye or no tie-dye?
No tie-dye.
Wow, that's lucky.
Yeah, you can see here. Yeah, but
We were getting tie-dyed in like catch and impasse at the time. I was like,
yeah, there was a lot of tie-dye quite far out. But our mid was fine. But yeah, I think someone put in chat that basically as we jumped out, the subcap fleets only just were starting to get into the system. And bearing in mind that the in-gate, it was a dead-end system as well, so the in-gate was basically bubble fucked to shit by XIX. So they also the subfleets then had to burn through lots of bubbles on both sides in heavy tie-dye, which is
oof. Look at that. That's a long way to go. Slow.
Oh yeah, so this is one of the Titans that basically warped off to an Athanor thinking he was safe. The subs came in, and basically I told them that there was a Titan that warped, or at least I said that a lot of stuff was warping in this direction. And one of the Titans they found, and they landed and they found one of these Titans sitting there. And so at this point, the main grid is mostly clear. At least there's not enough really to commit more dreads there. But at this point, yeah, we redrop in. So of those 80 or something dreads that escaped, we dropped another 10 back in to finish off this Titan that got bumped out and bubble fucked on this Athanor. This was the fifth Titan that died. Yeah.
I can see a Munion. Well, this footage is fantastic. You see a Munion fleet coming in on these dreads as they blow up in slow motion.
Yeah, I think we lost one dread here to a DD.
Yeah, it's actually really unfortunate. We told him like, just put your fit in the Athanor, but apparently he didn't. And like, I thought it'd be fine if he, left his doomsday on and fired it, but like he didn't put his fit away. So
because you can now put stuff in, you don't have to dock. You can just put it in directly to the station.
Yeah, you can move it to your fleet hangar and then deposit it in the structure or whatever it's called. I can't remember how to do it.
Bearing in mind, it took like a good 10 minutes to bump this guy off the Athanor. And
he had lots of time to do it.
He was also, I think he was something like almost 2.5 minutes from jumping out as well. Sorry, from safe logging, because he's running his combat timer down. So he was actually quite close to safe logging, but I think at the point that he got bumped out and he lost, obviously it was close to living tether, he was just like, well, I'm dead now.
Wow, that was a huge hit there for 576 billion, another $500 billion attack, ambush, call it what you will. And 1,000 players, 1,200 or 1,100 players involved. That's a big deal. So my follow-up question was which one of these two is bigger? This is bigger than the Rorqual ambush, isn't it?
So I think this is bigger in terms of ISK destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the other is bigger in terms of memes,
Yeah, the Rorqual one is definitely better for memes, but certainly like Rorquals are significantly more replaceable and whatever than.
Yeah, I mean, Pitts also tried to dread bomb XAX. This is the Tenerife's dread bomb and PEK that Vily referred to. But that one didn't go as nearly as well. I think they lost. They didn't kill anything, and they lost all of the dreads. But it's interesting because it's interesting how much OPSEC plays into this, because basically that particular dread bomb, it was scouted, I think, early on.
It was scouted early on, but that wasn't the issue. The issue is that they dropped half of their dreads and didn't have a second Sino for the other.
Yeah, that was another issue, right? The recon. So it's two things, right? Like the intel is vital. So the moment you undock dreads and you get scouted, people know something's going down. So that ping's going around. People are getting prepared, right? So that's one thing. That's a huge factor in this. Like losing the element of surprise is a massive deal in these dread bombs. And the other thing then is not being properly prepared on grid, right? So not having enough spare. I mean, recons are a really bad idea to use to bring in capitals or super capsule or titans in general, because they'll just get instantly killed by even the subcap fleet. So yeah, he didn't have enough recons ready, unfortunately, and then
he literally had one.
Yeah,
and died.
Yeah, I think he had more, but I think he had more than that. But it's just the guys that were supposed to be the recons weren't available in that particular drop. So
well, I know that he had one that jumped the initial bomb in, and the second recon had to gate 5 jumps to bring in the other half. Yeah. Like the thing is, they would have killed more on that dread bomb than you guys killed on this one if they would have went in all at once, because there was more juicy targets like right at 0.
Yeah, so actually the reason why that happened is because this in the escalation that Pitts forced, they actually dropped all of their supers and titans as a response fleet at 0 to the tackle target, right? In this one, they dropped them at range, so that was the only difference here. So if they had done exactly the same thing that they did versus Pitt, we would have got 15, 20 Titan kills easily. Like that's no doubt there.
One other thing about this fight in particular, the XIX Titan fight, a couple of those Titans were from Razor actually, and it made them have to change their policy on when their Titans were deployed.
Really? I wasn't tracking this one.
Yeah, I believe I'm looking at this fight, I think there are a couple of them were Razor. Does that make sense, or am I off? Is this a different fight?
Well, Razor is part of Fire Coalition, which lives in Detroit.
Well, I think it put a fracture in their alliance.
Yeah, that was Erebus and Zerko and the Avatar that died at the end, and then Erebus CEA that died at the. These two are both Razor.
Yeah, so they kind of got in trouble for that. It was like you weren't supposed. Like they basically reevaluate when their Titans will be used, and it may not be for coalition stuff. Who knows? Some along those
Yeah, I think
lines.
after these drops, people always modify their tactics, right? Like you have to adapt to. So I'm sure XAX aren't going to be doing crazy stuff, crazy silly things with fleet for at least a while.
Well, it's one of those things where every time you have any relative period of, how do I put this? Like you get to meme on people and whatever else, it slowly breeds complacency, and that complacency just grows and grows and grows until somebody comes on over and smacks you in the face real hard. You know, Test has had that experience, Goons have had that experience, horror, like everybody has that
And
experience
C
sooner or
has
later.
had that, yeah.
Yeah, like it just, because complacency breeds complacency. You do the same thing over and over and over again, and sooner or later you make a mistake that's big enough, somebody punches you in the face and you go, whoa, I don't want to do that again. And then you calm down, you smarten up, and you revise your tactics a little bit.
I think
And
when
as Whalers,
yeah.
we get complacent too quite often. So you get complacent, you get baited, or something happens and you lose your
Yeah,
fleet.
100%. Usually it's a little cheaper for the the
True.
whalers, but but certainly it's true of pretty much everything, I would think, actually. But
All
it's
right.
definitely how these battles usually are initiated to a degree.
My marker for that is when I hear, I hate to put it this way because I don't believe this kind of line of thinking, but when the F1 pushers are saying like, yeah, we're invincible, that's when there's too much complacency in the alliance.
That's basically what we look out for, dude. That's our indicator of who should be hit next.